Ready?
Steady.
Go. Here at Lloyds Banking Group, there's no such thing as just an apprentice. I'm in a position to say whether our products are fair, ethical and designed to help Britain prosper.
That moment when you realise you're in a team managing over £150 billion in funds.
It isn't all finance all the time. I led a partnership with Macmillan to help our customers access better cancer care.
Everyone knows you can trust Lloyds. I've seen our bold sustainability commitments and every day I see us following through.
1 minute I'm leaving uni with my sports science degree. The next I'm in a room thinking of ideas to help millions of families during the pandemic.
I work in financial crime, international sanctions. As you can imagine, it's a pretty interesting place to be right now.
1 minute you're reading about the cost of living crisis and the next you're writing a briefing paper on it.
Off the back of my dissertation on DevOps pipelines, I went into an engineering role and now I'm rolling it out company-wide.
We all got million subscription nowadays, so my team built a tool that helps 18 million customers manage them in our app.
When it's not developing with React or Redux, it's gaming with the other grads or the odd night out.
I couldn't be prouder of my outreach work through Lloyds, helping school-age girls and non-binary people get into coding.
My next step, go for an associate director role, either in my team or something new and exciting. How's that for a rotation?
Well, hello everybody, and I'm Ian, and from everybody here at Lloyds Banking Group, we hope you've had a great time over the holiday period, and Happy New Year. Lloyds Banking Group's Careers Live is brought to you on the first Tuesday of every month, and this year, of course, in January. Tuesday is falling so early on the 2nd of January, which in some parts of the UK is a public holiday. So this Careers Live is a little bit different to normal in that because of the holidays, we caught up with a few folk before Christmas and recorded a few people that we wanted to bring to you whilst they were actually still on their holiday. Now, for many of you, 2024 is going to be a landmark year. It could be the year that you're going to be completing your nationals. It could be the year when you're completing your GCSEs. It could be the year when you complete your hires, your advanced hires, your T-levels, your BTECs, your CTECs. And if we missed any of them out, those as well. There's a lot out there, okay? And it could be the year when you focus on the strengths that you have and how to find a place in the world of work where you can thrive. Now, whatever your objective, Lloyds Careers Live is here for you. Every month across the whole year, we're going to show you a new career pathway. It's all about helping you to understand the skills that you need to be able to work in that sector and give you the opportunity to meet people who are doing those jobs. And all of that from the comfort of your own home.
Thanks, Ian. So hi, everyone. My name's Elaine and I'm your host tonight alongside Ian. And we're going to talk about the world of audit and risk. So it'll be interesting what you guys think about those two topics, but they are actually two distinct careers. But they share some really common themes and threads. So what we've done is for tonight's Careers Live, we've actually combined them together in one event. So there also are different career pathways that exist in all different industry sectors. They might be called different things. So for example, you might see a job for a compliance officer and an auditor, or something like a risk assessor or a controller. So all of the companies and public sector bodies have all got processes and procedures that guide how things get done or how they should be done. But of course, not everybody follows those processes correctly, and sometimes the processes, if they're not followed properly, can lead to undesirable outcomes. So whether you're thinking of working with financial services, healthcare, automotive, biosciences, education, digital tech, whatever it is, you will actually find that there will be people working in risk and audit functions in every single organisation across the UK.
Yeah, so this allows me to introduce to you a concept which is called the T-shaped professional. And Elaine is going to demonstrate this at the moment. We're going to make a T shape in there. Thank you so much. Making a letter T. Now, T-shaped professionals are people who specialize in a certain professional field rather than necessarily within a particular industry. So let's say, for example, you're a software developer. Elaine will let you Let go there. The vertical part of Elaine's T here is how you as that developer become more valuable to employers as you deepen your skill set. So if you imagine this as building blocks going down. So for example, adding in more capability, you may start off going, I know how to do Scratch, I add Python, and you've got like a different thing in there. And then you learn another programming language like React, and then or Java, and then you start adding cloud capability in there as well. So these are building blocks that you're deepening your experience. And the more building blocks you have, the longer the length of that T. And the more interesting you are to employers, depending on the length of that T, because they're looking at all of this skill stack and going, oh, look, this person can do all of these different things. The more interesting you are to employers, then generally the higher the salary that you can command, because you're more valuable in the marketplace. So whilst Elaine's arms are about to go to sleep, what about that outsized bit of the T, if we were going like that as a T in there? Elaine, you're sitting down, you can't do a proper T, right? Well, look, the wide part of the T, Elaine, we'll let you have your hands back in there. The wide part of that T, that shows the range of different contexts in which you've carried out your craft. So again, let's say you're in software development. Now, you may have practiced software development in Lloyds Banking Group only, so the top part of your T is quite narrow. But let's say you worked in different divisions in Lloyds, we call these platforms, then you may be practicing your craft in different contexts. So you may be in our commercial banking platform or a retail platform, or a transport platform. And so all of those different things shows that the T-shape is widening as you go. And as your T-shape widens, adding different contexts and even different industries, then it follows that when you're looking around for new jobs, you can show that you've worked in a wide range of contexts. And to employers, that makes you more attractive. Because if you can show that you've worked in different contexts, then what that suggests to them is that you'll have no problem in adapting to working in the context that they have.
Yeah, and what we're going to cover this evening is you're actually going to hear from people that are going to demonstrate the T-shaped professional in action. So because, as I said, risk and audit professionals work in almost all organisations, they really do cover a lot of ground, and they have enormous breadth in their roles. So often when you first start in a large organisation, sometimes you've got so much to learn, it's even a challenge to remember the names of people in your own team and get to know what they do, let alone trying to figure out the way that the organisation actually works. But when you're in an audit or risk profession, what happens is you're actually assigned to work across that whole business. So people that start out in a risk or audit role often find that they get to know an organisation and the people who run the organisation really, really quickly. So as they work across the organisation, so their experience of working successfully in different contexts grows, and then that makes them become more valuable as a T-shaped professional. So tonight we've lined up lots of guests who are going to bring that concept to life for you with their own stories.
Absolutely. And so coming up this evening from our audit division, we've got Sarah and James as our experts, and we've got Rachel and Jess to tell you their lived experience of apprenticeships. And from our risk division, we have Victoria and Francis as our experts, and Joshua again to help us understand about apprenticeships within risk. And you can pose your own questions in the Zoom chat, or if you're watching this stream on YouTube, in the comments section there, we'll do our best to answer them all.
Yeah, and we know that, for some of you, this is a massive year, in terms of where you are in your life. So we're really, really thrilled to tell you that on this particular Careers Live, that if you do fancy yourself in a role in audit or risk, then we will shortly be announcing some apprenticeship opportunities in both fields starting in September 2024. So just thinking ahead, imagine putting in a bit of work now on your application, getting everything sorted before you go into your final exam revision period, and knowing that you've actually got your place and your job lined up for September. How amazing would that be? All your mates will be filling in their UCAS applications and student loan student finance and all of that in August. But what you'll be doing is you'll just be getting yourself ready for join the world of work, starting your apprenticeship, and knowing that you're not going to have that debt. And also, you're going to save that money. I suppose the downside is potentially your parents are going to start asking you for some sort of housekeeping once they see what's in your first paycheck. But, that's what it's like when you join the world of work, isn't it, Ian?
Absolutely. Now, just to say, if you benefit from closed captioning support, you can enable this now on Zoom and YouTube. And if you find some of the content here runs a little bit fast for you, then no worries about making notes, because as soon as the live stream has ended, the whole broadcast will appear in our Lloyds Careers YouTube channel, so you can replay the bits as often as you like. And keep your phone handy, as from time to time we'll show you some handy links. And we know, that sometimes these things flash up. So, if you have your phone handy, you can grab some photos along the way.
So, given the time that this is being broadcast, I know some of the countries actually still celebrating the new year, but let's have a little see where some of you guys are joining us from this evening. So, if you want to let us know where you are, pop over and to the chat and let us know where you're from.
Yeah, so tonight then, Elaine, so just kicking us off, I can say hello from the Southwest Massive. So I live just outside Bristol. I'm fairly sure a white Christmas is a real rarity when you're in the Southwest. It's normally a wet and windy Christmas is what we look forward to. And you're over the other side of the country, aren't you? So you're way, way, way to the east.
Yes, I am. I'm in Essex, sunny Essex. It's a bit chilly here today, but it's not raining, so I'm not complaining. So, yeah, we're all over the place, aren't we, Ian?
Okay, absolutely, in a good way, we're dad. Now, if you had to mark yourself on a scale, of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how well do you currently understand potential careers in the field of audit and risk? So if you've absolutely no idea what audit and risk means, you can give that a 1. That's okay. If you think that you should be presenting here on Careers Live because you already know it all, then give us a 10. So if you pop that in the chat now, we can see what kind of range we actually have. Now, whatever it is that you've put in, don't worry, because we have so much great information to give you today. All we hope is that we can help your score move that little bit higher towards the end than at the beginning. Okay, Elaine, over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. So I think it's about time we dive in now with some of our experts in audit. So we're going to start with audit. So welcome to Sarah and James. Thanks for joining us today. So I've got some questions for you guys. I'm going to start with you, Sarah, if that's all right. So Sarah, can you explain what is audit? How would you explain this to your friends and family?
So audit is an independent function. So obviously we're talking about it in Lloyds Banking Group context, but as both you and Ian have mentioned, it works across all different industries. And our role is to really help keep the group safe. So we've got a large organisation with a lot of different challenges across it. And as a function, we work across all of the different teams of the group to go in and basically do a little bit of a check on the work and the processes that they've got to kind of be a fresh pair of eyes, really, to check and see whether or not there's anything that could be working better, whether we've got any risks, whether we're concerned about anything happening. Because sometimes if you are the person who's working on it day to day, I think we've all probably studied a piece of paper or something or been searching for something and you can't see it because it's right in front of your eyes. So audit is basically that person that you call over that comes and uses that fresh pair of eyes and goes, actually, do you know what? Because of the way you're doing that, we've maybe got a bit of a risk of fraud, or actually, do you know what? We can make that a wee bit more streamlined and work a bit better. So we're basically a fresh pair of eyes that help keep the group safe and make sure that everybody's money is safe and everything is working really well.
Yeah, well, that sounds really, really interesting, Sarah. And I mean, James, from your point of view, how do auditors actually go about this work that Sarah's talking about? How do they do it?
So a huge part of my role is getting to know the different parts of the bank and understanding who is doing what and how they're doing it. And I do that by meeting people all the time and catching up with different areas of the finance function, which is the audit area that I cover, and learning really the ins and outs of how they do their jobs. Then we try and break it. So we'll go in and we'll design different tests and different strategies that we can go into and really try and challenge some of these approaches and see if there's any risks, to Sarah's point, that might be happening that we haven't necessarily realized yet. And once we have, if we do find anything, if anything isn't working, then it's all about working with those business teams to help them understand what the issue that we found is, what the root cause of that issue is, and what the risks that might arise from that is, and then how to fix it. So it's a really collaborative piece function that we can work across the bank.
Yeah. And how did you get into audit then, James?
So I started off as what we call an external auditor, so working in a accountancy firm, trained as an accountant, and a lot of that was looking at different customers and looking at their financial records and giving an independent opinion on the financial records. I moved into internal audit at Lloyds about 5 years ago, because I wanted to see a different side of the job that I do. I wanted to see how the financial skills that I'd learned in accountancy actually could transfer into something that was much more across the bank and seeing lots of different areas of business.
Right. So does that mean then, if you started in a different organisation, does that mean that if you want to, people can move companies and the experience that they've got in one company or industry is actually relevant to other sectors as well?
Absolutely. So when I joined the bank, I actually came in working with the insurance team. I'd never worked with insurance before, but it was the skills that I had learned as part of an accountant and an auditor meant that I could just transfer those skills into a new area. And whilst I've been here, I now work across finance, and it's completely different again. So the base level skills of being able to question things and be that fresh pair of eyes and work through solutions with the business are really transferable no matter where you go.
Oh, that's good to know, definitely. And I think the guys who are on the call will be really interested in that. Sarah, I'll just come back to you. So whereabouts do our auditors work then in Lloyds Banking Group?
So we literally cover the entire group. So we will audit all the different parts of the group. So we have teams that cover everything from software engineering and platforms, so really sort of technical IT teams. So if you're quite into the technical space, we cover that. Then we've also got people who look after things like the retail bank, so a branch that people might have been in, thinking about the people that work in there. We've also got people that cover insurance and pensions, like James has mentioned, and then also all of your back office, so your HR types of departments, basically every single part of the group, which has a lot more than just sort of finance or counting money. You know, the bank has so much more. And the brilliant thing about the apprenticeships that we offer is over the course of the apprenticeships, the apprentices will actually do 6 placements within internal audit. And across those 6 placements, you're rotating around different teams. So you get the opportunity to do a little bit in sort of one of the more IT-related teams. You do stuff in finance. You do stuff in business-related teams, so thinking about your consumer or your pensions, those types of things. And you rotate, which gives you a really good understanding. So thinking about that T that we were talking about earlier, it gives you a really good understanding of the group overall. And then once you've completed those 6 placements, you actually then do a 6-month placement actually physically outside of internal audit and actually doing everything that you've been auditing. So, you know, if you've got a real interest in finance, you might go and work actually in a finance team. If you've got a real interest in IT, you might go and actually be the person who is setting up the cyber controls for the group. So it gives you a really good chance to kind of build that knowledge, because what we want is people who have a good understanding of how the group is all connected. And it also kind of going back to what James was talking about earlier, you know, when you're thinking about your career and different places that you can move into over your career, because we've got such a large and varied group and we've got teams that cover all of that. Actually, if you then think, I want to totally change industries and I'm going to go get a job working for a council or working for a tech firm, you could be auditing their IT or their finances, and actually you've got a lot of skills from your current role that can then transfer over. So it gives you a really good breadth of knowledge and understanding of how the group works.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting to know that the skills are so transferable, which is probably something that a lot of people might not realise. I mean, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left. I was going to ask you about professional qualifications, if there are any that people would need. But also, I know that you're actually going to be advertising for some live apprenticeship roles, aren't you? So do you want to tell us a little bit about that as well, Sarah?
Yeah, so we will be advertising for roles both in Edinburgh and for the very first time, which we're super excited about, and we're going to have apprentices in Bristol. Bristol's where James is based, so he's vested interest in welcoming everybody. So we're very keen to get some new apprentices in that area. And over the course of that apprenticeship, the apprentices will be working their way through the Institute of Internal Audit qualifications. So you would be getting internationally recognised qualifications, and actually at the end of the apprenticeship you would end up with your chartered status in internal audit, which is fantastic, and that is fully transferable. You also, as part of it, because of the way the qualification works, get a master's as well. So at the end of the 4.5 years, you could not only have 4.5 years of experience and a better understanding of what areas you're really interested in, but have your master's degree and also your chartered status, which really then, you know, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, all that from an apprenticeship, you know. I mean, it's incredible. They sound like great opportunities, Sarah. Thank you. Thanks. I know we're going to need to move on to the next section, but thanks, guys, for chatting.
Yeah, well, we are, but we're also going to stay a little bit connected with it as well, because, you know, Elaine, we always say that the best way to find out about an apprenticeship is to speak to an apprentice.
Yes.
And here tonight on Careers Live, we actually have got not just one, but we have two apprentices who are studying in audit at the moment. So we've got welcoming Rachel and Jess into Careers Live. Rachel, we're going to start off with you, actually, if we can. So how did you find out about the internal audit apprenticeship? And I guess guys are going like, how on earth do you figure out and learn about audit when you're at school? So I also am curious about what captured your imagination when you chose to apply.
Yeah, so I'm Rachel. I'm a 4th year apprentice now. So obviously I'm on the level 7 internal audit apprentice scheme, same as Jess. So I joined in September 2020 after doing my A-levels, which got cut short because of COVID. So when I was applying, actually, my school was I just switched into a new sixth form, and they just weren't very interested in apprenticeships. You know, I was always told if I don't apply for university, you know, I'm going to be making the wrong decision. Do I really want to make that wrong career choice and be stuck with it for the rest of my life? Like, that was always kind of the way that I was told, you know, don't go down the apprenticeship route. But university just wasn't something that I wanted to do. So finding out about like the apprenticeship was actually very different for me. I had to go off and speak to people by myself. I went and spoke to a lot of my mum's friends who work at the Big Four, just kind of had conversations with them. Do they have apprenticeships going? How do I apply for them? How do I find out about banks that do them, etc.? And so I applied for a lot of them. And then I actually had my accounting teacher who basically sat down, put a whole afternoon aside with me and helped me find about 30 apprenticeships to apply for. And to be honest, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have found this apprenticeship, because, you know, I was kind of completely lost. I didn't really know how you apply for them. It was something that I didn't really have much knowledge on at all. So she sat me down and she found this apprenticeship along with others. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to apply for Lloyds. It's too big of a company. I'm never going to get it. What's the point? So I just kind of left it that day, didn't apply. And then 2 days later, she came back to me, my accounting teacher, and was like, well, have you applied yet? And I said, no. And so she, again, put aside 2 hours for me and made me sit down and fill out that application. So it was quite nice having someone who actually believed in me when other people, you know, there was a lot of the teachers that said, you know, this is going to be a very wrong decision for you. So it was definitely not your typical way of applying. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's introduce Jess here. So hi, Jess. So how is your journey through your apprenticeship been so far then? I guess it's a little bit different to life at school.
Yes, very different to life at school. So I've been here for 2 years now. I started in September 2021. And I've actually really enjoyed the journey of doing an apprenticeship, and I'm not being paid to say that. So I've had a good time so far. I think one of the pulls for me of this apprenticeship was being able to take rotations across the function and really understand what the bank does and being able to look at different processes. I didn't want to do a job where I kind of did the same thing every day. I got a holistic view, and I also get to work with new teams, which I like to build up a network, and just coming in and being able to speak to people. And I learn so much from people and their experience. So I really enjoy that side of thing. And we also get opportunities outside of just our function. So we're working with a local college at the minute. We're running a workshop scheme with them so that they can learn soft skills and help them apply for apprenticeships as well. Because I think I had a similar experience with Rachel where schools aren't as forthcoming with apprenticeships. So it's really nice being able to kind of reach out and help other people in that journey. And you learn so much from just being on the job, which I've really enjoyed. It's quite different to being at school where you just get books kind of thrown at you. It's nice being able to see it in action. And that kind of moves on to my university point as well. So I started in September doing the master's course. And it's been really good being able to apply my knowledge to my day to day. I can kind of see the end vision, which I've really enjoyed. And I find it quite satisfying as well. It is very different to school. Coming in and being able to, I think half the challenge is being like, I'm coming into a workplace now, like how do I act being around older people? But
Yeah.
I think the culture at Lloyds has been what's made that transition really easy. So I have like regular catch-ups with my line manager. We talk through my development points, and they just make it really comfortable. And I know I've got the support needed. For examples of exams, like we can take study days. People are very appreciative of the fact that we get 20% of our time to do our studies. It's not taken as like a side of desk, or you need to find your own time to do it. So I think the work-life balance is a big change, but the culture at Lloyds make it like it's not too difficult.
Yeah,
So
and incredible. Yeah, and incredible to think that you're actually studying, at a tender age compared to what your school teachers might have thought, that
Yeah.
you're already studying for your master's degree as well. Rachel, I know that we're really short on time, inevitably on Careers Live, because trying to cram a lot in, but some final hints and tips around, as Jess said, the whole logic of applying for an apprenticeship is quite different to applying to a union. I know that you had like a few goes at this as well. So I wonder if we just part with a few hints and tips from you, from your experience for our audience tonight.
Yeah, so I've gone out to a few schools before and just kind of spoken to them about hints and tips because, it's a different, like you said, it's a very different experience to university. One thing I would say is just be yourself in your applications. I feel like just being honest and open about like the hobbies and stuff that you do, I feel like is a massive thing just to show off your personality, because you want to get to know someone, right? You want to be able to look at, for example, your CV and go, oh, okay, so they do X, Y, Z, and that's really interesting. You want to make yourself shine. One of the tips that I kind of say is always prepare, like for an interview, always prepare for an assessment centre as well. Make sure that you know the company in pretty much inside out, because you don't want to get a question and you don't know the answer to it, basically. Because, they will always test you on your knowledge of the organisation. Teamwork, always make sure that you can actually work together in a team, because, that's so important, especially in audit, being able to communicate with your stakeholders and make sure that your relationships with them are strong. So just making sure that you
Brilliant. Okay, well look, thank you.
Actually work with someone in a team and actually listen to what other people have to say. If I was to kind of like summarize it.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you both. I feel like we could dedicate the whole of Careers Live just to you two, but sadly time means we have to move on, Elaine, because we've got yet more guests to introduce on Careers Live. Oh, Elaine, we have you on mute. We're going to go back, I think. Let's get you off mute.
Okay,
you were
sorry.
in
I was
full
getting
flow.
Yeah, sorry. I was just getting too excited then about the fact that this year it's been such a crazy year. We've actually welcomed over 10,000 apprentices into Lloyds Banking Group. And although people do join us throughout the year, a lot of colleagues do join just after the summer. And what we've got now is a little video to show you. Some of our new starters made this video to tell you all why they love to work at Lloyds Banking Group. So let's take a look at what they said.
Love to work at LPG.
So it was the feeling that I got when I was welcomed by my team.
Helping people in the most vulnerable of moments.
There's always like some activities going on, fun activities.
Honestly, I actually really can't appreciate everyone enough.
When I joined the group, the first day itself was very warm and welcoming.
And fun as well, a bit of fun too when you were doing the learning and stuff. And
everybody's welcoming, warm, you feel at home.
Satisfaction when you finish the call and somebody's like, thank you, you've helped so much, just makes your day a little bit better.
It's just been very enlightening to have a team that actually supports me and gets me going and ready for work. I've never really had that before.
As a bit of a nerd, the technology is really appealing.
The systems, they're easy to learn.
I really do love it here, and the people are great, everyone is great, coming into the office is great.
My training was genuinely fantastic. It set you up for success.
You are free to express yourself.
There's a lot of stuff to do in Lloyds outside of work.
I found the opportunities available very exciting.
It was easier to do the training with people that you can kind of get on with and have a laugh with.
There is always something that I learn every single day I'm at work.
I felt included from the start. It was really professional, really efficient.
I really enjoy the emphasis placed on personal growth and development.
Every avenue is open, it's very friendly, people are willing to talk and share what they do.
I just love that film that our apprentices and our new colleagues made, and one of the things that makes me super proud of what we do here on Careers Live is that it's created by colleagues for you. So the people that you meet here on Careers Live are all people who work for Lloyds Banking Group. They all have day jobs and then they step out of it, including our apprentices, to do all these kind of weird and wonderful things alongside it. Now, Careers Live this month is a double header where we're featuring two great areas of Lloyds Banking Group that you could make part of your future, and they're closely related as well. So we've learned that audit is about helping provide an organization with that assurance that its processes and procedures are watertight, and in doing so it helps keep organizations safe. Now, every day when we wake up, there are chances that some things might not go according to plan, and we may have experienced a power cut so our alarm doesn't go off for that vital interview. We may find the bus is late, meaning we don't arrive at school on time. We may find the Wi-Fi network is down, meaning we can't pull down that homework that we did from last night in the cloud. So in everybody's daily lives, there are risks that we assess and we learn to live with. But for other risks, the consequences of things going wrong mean that we take extra measures to either make sure the worst doesn't happen, or if it does, then we've got a backup plan. So we're going to let you have a go at some of this for yourselves. So let's imagine that we've booked a big trip. So I'm going to say here, it's a major holiday, and I'm going to pick California because that sounds like in a dreary British winter. California sounds pretty good to me. So your flight is at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and you've got the car parking booked at the airport, and you've calculated the time you need to check in with the flight, park the car, get to the airport. You need to set off from home 5 hours before your flight. So what we want you to do is type into the chat what kind of risks could mean that you are not going to make it to be sitting in first class drinking orange juice and having a nice croissant whilst the people like me are shuffling to the back of the plane. You're getting ready for your trip to California. Elaine, whilst everybody's putting things in the chat, how does this work for you when you're planning a major trip? What kind of risks go through your mind?
Well, I know I probably check whether I've got my passport about 5 times, just to keep getting it out, getting it back, just in case, because you don't want to get there and then you haven't got it, or you've left it on the side because you've been checking it and taking it in and out of the bag. The obvious one is about whether you think you're going to oversleep, because I think when you've got to get up early, isn't it, you just you don't really sleep properly and you end up waking up throughout the night. So that's always a bit of a worry, isn't it? When you're going somewhere on a big trip, I think there's always a lot of things, isn't there, Ian, that you could potentially think of.
Passport is my big one, because I kind of figure out if I forget. I mean, I once went. I remember doing a trip to the States, and we arrived and unpacked at the hotel to realise that all of my shoes had been left at home. All I had were my winter boots that I'd flown in, and obviously in Florida, you don't really need to walk around in big boots like you would. I kind of figure out that most things I can sort out when I'm there, but if I don't have the passport and I don't arrive on time, no holiday.
No, and that's why they say you should split your clothes, isn't it, in the 2 different suitcases, not take all of your own stuff together, because if one goes missing, Ian, this is things we need to remember.
So the next thing is mitigating the risks, isn't there? So there are ways in which we can reduce the chances of those risks happening. And if they happen anyway, what are the things that you can do to reduce the impact of that going wrong? So sometimes there are risks that you just have to accept that are in there. So Elaine, you know, when we're all traveling, because you and I both travel a lot for work and also, you know, in leisure time as well. What kind of things do you manage to put? We talked about like how to reduce the risk in there, but what other things do you do to make sure that holiday starts on time?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we talked about sleeping through the alarm. You know, I know a lot of people set many alarms, don't they? So that if the first one fails, at least you've got a backup. I think it's just like you say, it's just thinking ahead, isn't it? About things that, you know, sometimes there's risks that you have to just accept. You know, if the flight is delayed, that's not something that you can, you know, that you've got any control over, is it really? So I think there's a number of things that sometimes are out of our control.
Yeah, so there are different things you can do with risk, isn't there? Sometimes you can mitigate and you can try and reduce the likelihood of it happening. Sometimes you can do things where you reduce the impact of when it does happen. Some people can take out things like travel insurance, so that gives them some financial support. If their flight is massively delayed for some reason, then they've got a little bit of compensation to pay for the rather expensive food and drink in an airport when you have to stay there for a while. Looking at you, Gatwick, last year, give me 5 hours, 5-hour delay for my flight to Sicily in there. But so there are different things that you can do around insuring, and then ultimately there are some things, as you say, that you just have to accept. You know, you can't control things like the weather that could cause flight delays and various other things like that as well. So thank you for all the comments that you put in the chat, and that's just like a simple example in our everyday lives about risk management. Now in business it's actually all quite similar. So all organizations have to learn to evaluate and work constructively with risk. We can't eliminate it entirely and actually still run a business, because just having customers introduces a risk. So, you know, you don't want to be a business that's trying to eliminate risk by just eliminating your customers, otherwise you have no business. So sometimes that means risks have to be accepted, but more often it's also about understanding that risk, the likelihood of something is going to happen, and then having the right mitigations either to reduce the chances it's going to happen or the damage if it should.
Yeah, and I mean, here we've got some special guests to talk to us a little bit more about the world of risk. So we've got Victoria, Francis and Joshua who are going to join us now. Hello guys, thanks for joining us on the call today. So I'll start with you, Francis, then. What is risk? So how could you explain this to your friends and family?
Yeah, so keeping it really simple. So risk is probably best described as either a decision or an action made on something where the outcome is unknown. I think as it stands at the moment, we've been talking quite a lot of potentially the negative sides of risks, but actually that isn't always going to be the case either. We can have some positive sides to risk making or taking risks, but we tend to always automatically assume it's going to be negative. An example, obviously, we heard earlier from Rachel and Jess, and they were saying that their schools didn't really encourage them to look at apprenticeships and try to push them down a university path, but they took a risk. They took a risk to apply for apprenticeships and have sort of loved it. So not always risks associated to sort of bad outcomes, but keeping it simple, it's where we don't know what the outcome of that action or decision will be is a risk.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, definitely. And Victoria, why is risk important to organisations, do you think?
So without boring you all on the million reasons on why risk is important, you do need to understand the risk to manage and make informed decisions to kind of safeguard the future prospects of the bank in our case, but what it could be, going back to Jess and Rachel, your future. So you need to understand the risk to better protect yourself for what your future looks like. We look at risk and future compliance and regulation frameworks for the bank, and that feeds into everyday activities for us. And if we don't manage and understand those risks, then we do need to hold ourselves accountable and do better in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, day to day then, Francis, just I'll come to you first. How do you go about your daily work then in your risk role?
Yeah, so the risk that I going back to your T, so the risk that I'm specialising in at the moment is economic crime risk. So this is the risk of potential money laundering. It is quite interesting. You kind of feel like you're trying to catch the bad guys. And my day-to-day role is really quite vast actually, because I'm quite deep on the T. I face off to lots of different programs, lots of different teams who are trying to manage that risk on an operational level. Looking for my sort of support or guidance. Okay, this is what we're looking at. We think this might be connected to economic crime. What's your thoughts on it? How can we improve it? So every day is different, which is what I enjoy. You can never really predict where the bad guys might show up. So that's how I sort of go from day to day, facing off to different areas of the bank, looking to help and support and guide along the way to ultimately protect us as a group and the great British public, really.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. And Victoria, what about your role? How do you go about your daily work?
Yeah, so mine's is slightly different to Francis, although we do feed into the same type of clients that we look after. Mine's is more aligned to like the operational risk. So how many clients do we need to look after within a set period of time? How can I motivate my team to provide a good service that's painless for our clients and that protects the bank? We've got a set process that needs to be followed, but that's not going to work every single time, right? So how do I support my team to think outside the box, get it right for the client, but also for the bank? So mine's is slightly different to Francis.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. And Francis, what sort of skills do you think would be useful for someone to have if they're thinking of a career in risk?
So I think for me, curiosity. You have to want to keep to going and to understand kind of, I imagine what it would be like in audit. You have to be curious as to what's happening. I think patience is a massive one, because you might not get to where you need to in terms of your decision making or your thought process. I think challenging the status quo, you have to want to keep on pushing back and asking why. But for me, I think the key one is the desire to continue to learn and develop. Risks are always changing. The landscape is always changing. Again, certainly in economic crime, the criminals are always adapting to how they are trying to con us, how they are trying to launder money. So you have to try and stay one step of the game. Obviously, the world is changing, looking at different sort of technologies, AI. So you have to need to keep on wanting to learn and develop, and that's the biggest takeaway from me.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Francis. And Victoria, last question for you. What does the actual development path look like then for a person who works in risk?
So the development path for a risk apprentice can go lots of different ways. So you can go down a more specialist route, or you could go into a leadership role. So I know after myself, Elaine, you're going to ask Joshua some questions around the risk and compliance apprenticeship that he's completed. I actually completed the same role as Joshua and the same qualification that he's done. And I've utilised that experience to then progress into a leadership role, which means that I'm leading colleagues such as Joshua. And I've been in their shoes. I want to use that to inspire them, to challenge the status quo, to challenge what we're doing. Are we doing it right? Can we do it better? Or you can go down the more specialised route, which Francis has kind of spoken around, where for an example of that would be to look at transactions on accounts to see if there's anything suspicious in there. You can look at sanctions. So you can really take it a lot of different ways.
Yeah, okay. No, that's good to know that there are variable sort of routes and things. But as you said, Victoria, I'm going to bring in Josh as our risk apprentice. Hello, Josh. Thank you for joining us today. So I might need a little bit of a hand here with some of these questions here, Joshua. But I'll start off with, how did you find out then about this actual career path in risk?
Well, luckily for me, I have some family who work in the bank, so that's always a good start. But they informed me about the apprenticeship, what apprenticeship it was going to be, risk and compliance. So I went onto the Lloyds website, had a little look. At the multitude of apprenticeships we offer. There's absolutely tons. So I spent all day looking at all the different ones, seeing which one would tick my fancy. So risk and compliance came up. So I was like, okay, why not try it? I know from my personal experience that I've been out for been out of education for a bit. I sort of missed it, and I know that I thrive in an educational environment, a setting. So I thought, why not? Why not give it a go? Let's do it. I've got nothing to lose, so I just thought, let's go. I didn't think I'd get it, but luckily for me, I did. So great stuff.
Yeah, well, you did really, really well. I mean, what was it that interested you about working in risk? Obviously, you talked about how you've applied for the role and sort of just went into it. Was there anything in particular about risk that caught your eye?
Well, throughout my life, really, I've always wondered, like, why big corporations and big institutes like Lloyds, what are the dangers to businesses like that? You think, oh, big business, that they're fine, they're sorted, but actually thinking about it, what are the risks and the dangers that they face on a daily basis? And that really, really intrigued me, really interested me. Who manages it, who deals with it, sort of thing. So I thought, well, what better place to start than risk? So I thought that'd give me the understanding, the knowledge, the skills to sort of better my understanding of risk itself. So I thought, why not?
Yeah. Well, and how have you found it then so far since you started your journey?
Well, I can definitely say right now, where I am now, absolutely great. Initially, when I did first start, it was my first job in a bank, my first apprenticeship. I was quite nervous. I felt quite withdrawn from the job and the apprenticeship. I didn't think I was enjoying it that much. But after a meeting with my line manager, sort of get everything in place, organise everything, I feel a lot better about it now, and I feel like I've really come into my own with both the job and the apprenticeship, balancing the job and the apprenticeship. So I think now I'm really thriving from the whole process, and I feel like it's been a lot better for myself, not only within like the industry and the job, but actually as a person. I've come out of my shell a bit more.
Oh, brilliant. I'm really pleased to hear that. I mean, obviously, one of the big things about apprenticeships is you are earning and learning at the same time, which makes them quite unique opportunities. How have you found that then, Josh?
I think it's been great. Like I said, it's my first apprenticeship, so it's been a bit different from me. And I said I've been out of education for a little bit, so it's a bit of a change adapting to like the sort of essays and that sort of stuff again. But in terms of working and learning, it's hard to master the balance between the two. Like within my team, us as apprentices, we get a whole day just to solely focus on the apprenticeship work. So I feel like that helps a lot more. Being able to get to grasps with working and learning at the same time. But as well as that, there's a lot of stuff on the apprenticeship that's actually fed into what I do on a daily basis. So I feel like that's definitely helped a lot whilst I've been doing my job on a daily basis. So
Yeah, so you're having the opportunity to practice all those new skills, knowledge, and behaviours then in your actual day-to-day role. So, Josh, the big question is, what's next for you after the apprenticeship then? What are your plans?
Well, being part of a huge bank like Lloyds, it gives you an opportunity to sort of branch out and do other things. I think someone mentioned it earlier, doing other things as well as your job. So I've been able to take on little bits on the side. I come from an acting background, so I've been part of sort of like mandatory training, videos, and all that sort of stuff on the side of what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm hoping I can take that forward. I've been able to network with different people, different colleagues that are sort of from that background as well. So I'm hoping I'll be able to take that forward, and hopefully after my apprenticeship, I'll be able to hopefully link in with them and see what can come of that.
Yeah, I did think I recognised your face, Josh, now that you come to mention it. Oh, brilliant. Well, it sounds like you've got a really bright future ahead. So
Thank you.
thanks so much for joining us, and also to you, Victoria and France. It's been great to speak to you today.
Yeah, and I love that way as well, Elaine, that our apprentices, you think like, oh, I'm looking for an apprenticeship in risk or apprenticeship in audit. And then, as Josh said, then, oh, well, I had a bit of acting in my background. So I then got involved in actually delivering bits of training. And I love the way that our apprentices quite often are doing so many other things as well, because they network both inside our organisation, but also in the big wide family of apprenticeships, either through the Apprentice Ambassador Network or Association of Apprenticeships as well. So well done, Josh. I love all of the extra things that you're doing as well. Thank you so much. Now, time is flying, but we have 2 films for you now. First of all is my colleague John, who's going to tell you all about the application process for apprenticeships at Lloyds, because I'm sure that you've got questions. We told you that there are vacancies coming up, and links will appear in the chat for you around those, but I'm sure that fills you with some questions around the application process. So John is going to tell you a little bit about what we're looking for when you apply for roles at Lloyds Banking Group. And then there's a film from me with a rather breathless rundown of my favourite websites that will help you with your career development. So first of all, over to you, John.
Hey folks, my name is John Banks and I'm part of the apprenticeships team here at Lloyds Banking Group. I hope you're enjoying your webinar so far today, and I just wanted to spend a little bit of time to talk you through the assessment and selection process should you choose to apply and join us as an apprentice in the future. So I guess first thing to say is we hire at Lloyds Banking Group based on personal strengths, behaviours and motivation to actually work within the group. And the majority of our apprenticeships don't have academic qualifications attached, and that will be dependent on the programme that you apply for. But generally speaking, because we're looking for hiring you as an individual and the type of behaviours and values that you represent, and we attach more value to that than we do academic qualifications. And if you are interested in applying, the first step to take then is to complete an initial online application. And as well as telling us a little bit about yourself, we'll do some basic eligibility checks just to make sure that you qualify for the apprenticeship. And really where you might fall down on that is almost if you were overqualified, because you can't undertake an apprenticeship unless there's a significant learning need. So for example, if you already held a degree in your particular discipline, then the apprenticeship wouldn't work for you because you're actually qualified to degree level. But assuming that's okay, the first stage post application for you is you may be asked to undertake an online test to assess your strengths and your mathematical skills as well. And if you come through those tests achieving the relevant benchmark, the next step will be an interview. Now that interview can either be a face-to-face interview or it could be a video interview. And if you're applying for a level 2 or a level 3 apprenticeship, that will be the final stage. And as a result of that interview, you may be offered an apprenticeship position. If you are applying for a level 4 plus apprenticeship, the final stage will be a follow-on assessment centre. And it's a virtual assessment centre, takes place for a full day, and it's made up of a further strengths-based interview and a series of virtual challenges. Don't be daunted by the assessment centre in any way, shape or form. It is a full day, and of course you are being assessed against other individuals who are looking to undertake an apprenticeship with ourselves. But it's a relatively fun day, it's relatively informal, and again, we just want to see the real you at that assessment centre. And we do recognise that people are different and want to make the process overall as simple and accessible for everybody. So if you do need any support with any of the steps through the selection and assessment process, we've got a dedicated mailbox. So it'll just be a case of calling out exactly what support you may need, or even if you've just got general questions about the process, full stop, that mailbox is on hand to answer any of those questions. And I guess if I were to give you a tip of how to prepare for either interview or assessment centre, I guess what we don't want is perfectly crafted and rehearsed answers and almost second guessing what we might want to hear. What we want to see is the real you. We want to see your passion for your apprenticeship and the discipline that you've chosen. And of course, your motivation for working at Lloyds Banking Group. So that's the process. All of this information, and it will be elaborated on a bit further with some examples and further guidance, can be found at lloydsbankinggrouptalent.com. So definitely go and have a look at that site, have a little look around, some great case studies of some of our existing apprentices as well, who will talk about their journey, essentially how they came to undertake an apprenticeship and what it's like to live and breathe life in Lloyds Banking Group. And just on lloydsbankinggrouptalent.com as well, there is a little button that says register your interest. And why that's quite neat is you can go on and express an interest in particular disciplines of apprenticeship that you're interested in. And it just means whenever a vacancy then does come up, you'll get an automatic notification. So hope that all makes sense. Enjoy the rest of your webinar, and hopefully we receive some applications from many of you in the future. Good luck, folks.
Hi everybody, it's Ian here from the Lloyds Early Careers team, and they've given me 2 minutes to talk to you about my favourite websites for discovering what's next on your journey. So here we go, no time to waste. Coming in at number 5 is some useful resources here from the Association of Apprentices and Amazing Apprentices. There are some great resources in here. The Association of Apprentices in particular, a great way to meet other apprentices and find out what that journey is like compared to university. And at number 4, of course, Amazing Apprenticeships, which just has so much information, including just ways in which you can find out what apprenticeship might suit you by just looking at subjects that you like. And there's some great resources for parents in there as well. Now at number 3 we have the government's resources. This is the government's Find an Apprenticeship service where you can look for live vacancies. It's a really good idea in there. And if you're not sure whether that pay is going to be competitive, the National Careers Service, you can find out all sorts of things about what you'll be paid in training and what you should be expecting after training as well, so you can command your place in the marketplace. Now coming in at number 2, our friends at UCAS, a whole range of resources here, from finding your next job, information about how to construct a CV, pass an assessment centre, and all kinds of different things. And if you don't know what you want to do at all, there's even a cool career quiz as well to help you. And of course, coming in at number 1, Lloyds Banking Group's resources, the Lloyds Bank Academy, and alongside that, our work experience information and the one QR that you need, which is for our Imagine What's Next platform. Signing up here on that QR code will get you front of line access to all of our skills training, all of the learning we offer, all of the experiences we can do, access to our work experience and early notification of vacancies as well. What's not to like? That's all you need to do on your journey as you imagine what's next.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. I can't believe that our time is almost up. It's just flown by today, hasn't it? And when I think back to the start of this call, we were sort of asking people to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well they understand careers in risk and audit. I think it would be a good opportunity now for people to reflect and have a think about, whether they are at number 10, if they're top at the class in terms of being super knowledgeable now, or if it is still a bit of a mystery to you on the back of this and you're still at number 1.
Yeah, I think it's important here not to worry too much about, our job in Careers Live, I think, Elaine, is to help you be more informed for some of the decisions that you are. And it's okay if you've come to, I mean, we won't embarrass our guests here, but, if you've learned more about something, you're curious about it, and then you decided, look, that looks like a great career, but it's a great career for somebody else, then that's okay, because there are so many different things you can do. We really just try to make it a little bit more digestible for you to understand those things. So really it's about, do you understand a little bit more than you did before you started? That's what we're interested in. All right. Okay. So our time is rapidly running away from us, Elaine. And if you're finishing school and moving into the world of work in September 2024, then do make sure before you go tonight that you're registered for Imagine What's Next, which is our connector platform. We mentioned it in that video. The link will be in the chat for you. Not only is it that place where you can learn all about different career pathways, not only is it the place where you can connect with mentors at Lloyds, ask them questions that are on your mind, but it's also the place where you can be notified first the moment that we release apprenticeship opportunities to apply for. And now is that critical time, because spring is when a lot of vacancies get released, ready to start in September. Now, as we mentioned, we're really pleased to announce that from the middle of January, we're going to be releasing apprenticeship opportunities in audit and risk, and you can apply for early spring, ready to start in September 2024. So as Elaine said at the top of the call, imagine what that will feel like going into your exams, going into that summer, knowing that you already have that future taken care of. Now, if you've missed anything tonight, because sometimes we do go through things like super quickly, then remember that you can hop over to our Lloyds Careers YouTube channel and replay anything you want from tonight's live stream. You can slow it down, go backwards, forwards, just make sure that everything you need, that you understand. And if you've still got questions, you can go over to Imagine What's Next and connect with our mentors. It's been our absolute pleasure to have you join us for the very first Lloyds Careers Live Imagine What's Next for 2024. Wherever your career takes you, we wish you every success. Bye for now.
Bye.
What does success mean to us?
Success is making a difference.
For our customers and our communities.
Success is empowering people from the start.
Building their confidence.
Giving them tools to start their careers.
Success is putting our people first.
It's knowing when to listen.
And making the time to talk.
Success is supporting causes we care about.
It's getting involved.
All hands on deck.
Success is making banking better.
It's engineering a fairer future.
Making progress and leaving no one behind.
Whatever shape it takes.
Success starts with us.